The bus from Lagos rumbled to a stop, shaking dust into the warm evening air. Maya stepped down carefully, one hand gripping her small suitcase, the other holding onto the handrail as if it were an anchor. The coastal breeze of Bodagra brushed against her skin, warm, salty, carrying the faint smell of roasted fish and distant rain. She inhaled slowly, deeply, letting her lungs fill with air that didn't taste like fear. For the first time in what felt like a lifetime, she wasn't listening for angry footsteps behind her. She wasn't flinching at the sound of a closing door. She had left her old life behind before the sun had even thought about rising, slipping away from the suffocating grip of the city. A city where every argument felt like thunder right above her head, and every silence felt like a trap waiting to spring. Legal paperwork was finally done. The police report filed. The therapist's voice still echoing in her mind, gently urging her to start again, somewhere quiet. Maya wasn't sure if she truly believed in the idea of a fresh start. It sounded like something from a movie, a fantasy for someone else. But she did believe in survival. She had to. And for now, that was more than enough. Ahead of her stretched a narrow sandy road that snaked its way toward a small cluster of homes nestled near the sea. The sounds of this new place began to filter in, one by one. Children's laughter drifted from somewhere nearby, light and carefree. Goats bleated lazily, and a kick rattled past, its engine humming as it bounced over the potholes. It all felt strange, so different from the constant tension she was used to. But it was also comforting. A symphony of simple, everyday life. Her new rental cottage stood near the end of the road. It was a small, unassuming yellow building with a rusted zinc roof and a fence made of weathered wooden planks. Leaning tiredly to one side, as if exhausted from standing guard, the paint was peeling from the walls in long strips, like old memories trying to shed themselves and disappear into the salty air. But it was quiet. It was peaceful. And most importantly, it was hers. Hers alone. She dragged her suitcase toward the gate, the wheels struggling against the soft sand. She gave the gate a gentle push. It screeched loudly in protest, a sharp, rusty cry that made her heart skip a beat and her shoulders tense up. She froze for a second, her body's automatic response kicking in. Then she took a breath. Relax, it's just a gate. She whispered the words to herself, planting her feet firmly in the sand to ground herself in this new reality. This is just a gate. You are safe. As she lifted her suitcase over the threshold and onto the small veranda, she heard the crunch of slow footsteps approaching on the gravel path. You day all right? Need help? A man asked, too. His voice was low and warm, like the evening air, carrying no threat, no edge. Maya turned quickly, her guard instantly up. A man stood just outside the leaning fence. He looked like someone carved from the sea and the sun. He had broad shoulders, deep brown skin, weathered by the elements, and rough, capable hands. He wore a simple navy blue fisherman's shirt and faded shorts, and he smelled faintly of salt water and hard work. His eyes were kind, but they held a heavy weight, the unmistakable look of someone who had known deep loss. I'm fine, thank you, she said automatically, her voice coming out a little too quick, a little too sharp. It was an old reflex, one she hadn't yet unlearned. The man simply nodded, a gentle gesture, as if he understood the instinct behind her answer and wasn't offended by it. Monet. Nah, Colonel, he said, offering a small, sad smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. I stay for the houseway day beside yours. I'm Maya, she replied, her voice a bit softer this time. She watched as Colonel gestured toward her sagging, broken fence. This one goes soon fall down, he observed calmly. If you no mind, I fit help you fix AM. I repair boats for a living, planks, ropes, nails, all na the same. Maya's first instinct, born from years of caution, was to refuse. To say no. For so long, accepting help, especially from a man, had felt dangerous. It always came with a price, with expectations she couldn't meet. But then she looked at the fence, broken, shaky, barely holding itself together. It reminded her of herself more than she wanted to admit. Maybe it was time to let someone help fix what was broken. That would be nice, she said quietly, the words feeling foreign on her tongue. Kunal nodded once, his manner respectful and calm. There was no pressure in his offer. "I go look, AM tomorrow morning. No rush." He then stepped away, heading toward his own small house next door, his slippers shuffling softly across the dirt path. She watched him go, noticing the slight stoop in his posture, the sadness he carried in his shoulders. She didn't know it yet, but she was watching a man who had lost his wife only a year ago, a man who was also trying to navigate his own sea of grief. Inside her new cottage, Maya opened the windows wide, letting the fresh, salty air chase away the stale scent left behind by the previous tenant. She was clearing out the old to make way for the new. She unpacked her small electric kettle and a tin of Milo. Soon, the familiar sweet chocolate smell wrapped around her like a warm, comforting blanket. It was a small taste of her childhood, a simple pleasure she could claim as her own. Holding the warm mug in her hands, she sat near the window and watched the ocean waves roll gently against the shore. The sea had always scared her. It was unpredictable, deep, endless, a powerful force you couldn't control. But tonight, it looked different. It looked calm, almost protective. The rhythmic sound of the waves crashing and retreating felt like a steady heartbeat, a pulse she didn't have to be afraid of. For the first time in a very, very long time, she wasn't bracing for shouting. She wasn't shrinking into herself, trying to become invisible. She wasn't apologizing just for existing. She felt something unfamiliar blooming in her chest. It wasn't happiness. Not yet, but it was safety. The first fragile seed of it, planted in new soil. As dusk settled over Badagry, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, she glanced toward Kunal's house. A single lantern glowed from inside his window, a steady, warm light in the growing darkness. It looked like a tiny lighthouse in the middle of a vast dark sea, a beacon promising safe harbor. Shu wrapped her hands a little tighter around her warm cup and whispered to herself, a quiet promise to the empty room. "This could work. Maybe. Maybe I can breathe here." And as if in reply, the ocean answered with a gentle shushing sound against the sand. In that moment, Maya felt something shift deep inside her, a tiny, trembling hope she thought she'd lost forever. The next morning began with the softest glow of sunlight slipping through Maya's curtains. She woke slowly, surprised that she had slept without nightmares. Badagry had a way of quieting things inside her, things she wasn't ready to name yet. The smell of the sea drifted into the room. She wrapped a scarf around her shoulders and made a cup of hot Milo. When she stepped outside, the breeze touched her face gently, like a welcome. Then she saw him, Kunal. He was already by her old fence, toolbox open, head bent as he examined the crooked wooden planks. His sleeves were pushed up, revealing strong, steady arms that had spent years pulling fishing nets and rowing boats. "You're up early," Maya said, surprised but grateful. Kunal looked up with a calm smile. "Morning, Maya. The earlier I start, the cooler the weather. Besides, I promised I'd fix it today." Maya came closer, the warm mug held against her chest. "Thank you, really." "No wahala," he said simply. "It's a small thing." Kunal began working carefully. He tested each plank, pushing lightly to see which ones were weak. When one snapped under his touch, he sighed softly. "This fence has seen better days," he said, "but we'll make it strong again." He measured the wood with quick, practiced movements. Maya noticed that he didn't rush. He treated even her broken fence like something that deserved patience. The hammering began rhythmic, steady, thunk, thunk. The sound mingled with the distant ocean waves and the calls of market women starting their day. Maya sat on the step, sipping her Milo as she watched him work. She wasn't used to being in the presence of someone so calm. Her previous life had been full of tension, every noise sharp, every gesture unpredictable. But Kunal moved like the sea, at dawn, gentle, controlled, certain to. "Did you always know how to do this?" she asked. He chuckled. "When you're fixing boats every week, a fence is just small play. My father taught me many things before he passed." There was no sadness in his tone, just memory. After removing the last broken plank, he replaced it with a fresh board and hammered nails in with steady accuracy. Sweat formed on his forehead, but he wiped it away with the cloth tucked into his pocket and kept going. Within an hour, the fence stood straight, strong, and almost new-looking. Maya stepped forward, astonished. "Kunal, it looks amazing!" He rose from his crouched position and dusted his hands. "It will protect you well now. The wind won't shake it again, please," Maya said, almost shyly. "Let me make you breakfast." To say thank you, Kunal hesitated, only out of politeness, then nodded. "Okay, I can eat. Thank you." Inside the kitchen, Maya cracked eggs into a bowl and sliced onions and tomatoes. As she fried them, the familiar smell filled her small home, making it feel warm alive. She plated the meal with bread and carried it outside. Kunal's eyes brightened slightly. "This looks good." They ate on the veranda, listening to the distant buzz of the town waking up. Women selling akara shouted greetings, fishermen dragged nets toward the shore, and children chased each other barefoot along the sand. It felt peaceful and familiar, but good. "My wife used to make eggs like this," Kunal said quietly, stared at the plate, his voice steady but soft. "She passed last year." Maya set her fork down gently. "I'm really sorry, Kunal." He nodded. "Thank you. She was a good woman. Life sometimes takes people before we're ready." There was no bitterness in his voice, only acceptance. Maya admired that. She stared at her hands for a moment. "I came here because I needed peace and safety." She didn't say everything she wasn't ready, but Kunal understood more than she admitted. "You'll find it here," he said quietly. "This place is gentle, the people are gentle. And you're not alone." The words touched something deep inside hers, something bruised but still living. After finishing his meal, Kunal returned his cloth to his pocket and packed up his tools. "If you need any other help," he said, "even a small thing, just call me from the fence. I'll hear you." Maya smiled, a real smile this time. "I will," she said. "Thank you, Kunal, for everything." The mornings in Badagry had a way of waking Maya gently. The waves rolled onto the shore with a rhythmic patience she hadn't realized she was missing. Even the wind felt different. Here softer, warmer, carrying the scent of salt, roasted fish, and fresh earth after the evening rains. Maya stepped outside her small cottage with a cup of hot Milo, the cool breeze brushing her face. The town was quiet. The streets empty except for a few early risers tending to their homes and boats. She inhaled deeply, savoring the peace that had been absent from her life for too long. "Good morning, Maya," a familiar voice called out. She turned to see Kunal walking toward her, a basket slung over his shoulder, his sandals kicking up small clouds of sand. His dark skin glowed warmly in the early sunlight, and his steady, deep brown eyes held the calm reassurance she had begun to rely on. "Morning," she said softly. "Are you going to the pier today?" Kunal nodded. "Yes, I need to check the nets and see which boats are ready for the tide. If you like, you fit, come with me." Maya hesitated for a moment. She wasn't used to being near the water. Its vastness had always made her uneasy, but something in Kunal, a steady presence, gave her courage. I'd like that," she said quietly. The sand was damp from the previous night's rain, and their footsteps left shallow impressions as they walked side by side. The town was slowly coming alive. Children ran past, laughing and chasing a tattered football. Women carried baskets of tomatoes and yams, balanced expertly on their heads, calling out greetings to neighbors and friends. Fishermen shouted instructions to one another as they pushed their boats toward the waves. Kunal moved with ease among them, nodding, smiling, greeting people by name. Maya felt the warmth of the community in every glance, every word. It reminded her of the kind of life she wanted to build, here, one with trust, quiet moments, and human connection. "Everyone seems to know you," she said as they walked. Kunal chuckled. "I grew up here, but Badagry is small. People help each other." You see, life no easy. But when we look out for one another, it becomes lighter. Maya smiled faintly. I think I like it here more than I thought I would. When they reached the pier, Cunnel knelt by the wooden nets, checking for holes, pulling up tilapia, and carefully untangling the ropes. Maya watched silently, fascinated by how his hands worked with skill and patience, each motion deliberate, steady, and precise. My wife. She used to love mornings like this, Cunnel said softly, not looking at her but at the water. She said the sea feels lonely at night and only wakes up when people return. Maya swallowed. She had never asked him much about his life, and hearing his voice carry that memory made her heart tighten. I'm sorry, she said quietly, I didn't know. Cunnel shook his head gently. She passed last year. Life goes on whether we're ready or not. The words hung between them, filled with understanding and quiet sorrow. Maya felt a small pang of sadness for him and also for herself. For the first time in a long while, she realized how much she wanted someone she could trust completely. After finishing his work at the pier, Cunnel suggested they visit the market before returning home. Maya agreed, grateful for the company and the distraction. Stay. The market was bustling. Women sold roasted corn, fresh fish, and spicy suja. Men shouted to advertise their wares. Children ran barefoot between stalls. Cunnel guided her through the stalls with ease, helping her pick fresh tomatoes, onions, and plantains. You go learn, he said with a smile as he bargained with a vendor on her behalf. Market day. Teach patience and sense. Lagos market. No fit compare with this one. Maya laughed, feeling lighter than she had in months. I think I like this better, she admitted. Cunnel's eyes softened. One day, you go see. People here day quiet, but they day real. Life day simple, but full of care. By the time they walked back toward Maya's cottage, the sun had climbed high into the sky. Clouds were forming over the ocean, dark and heavy. Cunnel paused, pointing toward the horizon. Storm day call me, he said calmly. We better be ready. Maya shivered slightly. Storms always reminded her of nights she had hidden from shouting and fear. Cunnel noticed her hesitation. No worry, he said gently. You don't have to face it alone. She looked at him, really looked, and felt warmth rise in her chest. Can I come with you? She asked quietly. Of course, he replied. We go sit, wait, AM, pass, lantern stay ready. When the first drops fell, soft and cool, Maya followed Cunnel to his house. Inside, the lantern cast a warm golden glow, and the smell of salt water lingered faintly in the air. Cunnel poured her a cup of warm Milo and sat beside her as the rain tapped gently against the roof. You're safe here, he said. Storm cannot reach you inside. Maya held the cup in her hands, letting the warmth seep in. For the first time since arriving in Badagry, she felt safe. Not just physically, but in a way that went deeper. Her heart could relax, her mind could rest, too. You always help people, Kunal, she said softly. He shrugged. Sometimes, people just need small help. Life heavy. Sharing it lightens the load. Maya smiled, letting the words sink in. Slowly, she realized that maybe she could start trusting again. Maybe she could start believing in kindness, in safety, in someone who offered care without asking for anything in return. And as the rain fell harder outside, she sat there in the warm glow of the lantern, listening to Cunnel's quiet presence, feeling a fragile but growing sense of hope. The morning air in Badagry was cool and wet from the overnight rain. Maya woke to the distant rumble of the ocean. She sat up slowly, feeling the soft mattress beneath her, and just listened. The wind whispered through the palm trees outside, and somewhere nearby, a rooster crowed its morning greeting. For the first time in what felt like forever, she didn't wake up with a jolt. The tightness in her chest, that familiar ghost that had haunted her for years, was gone. She dressed quickly, wrapping a light, colorful scarf over her hair, and stepped outside into the dawn. The smell of damp earth and salt water filled her lungs, a scent that was both new and ancient. The streets of the small town were still quiet, hushed in the pre-dawn light. The only sounds were the faint melodic calls of fishmongers setting up their stalls by the water's edge. their voices carrying on the gentle breeze. And then, she saw him, Kunal, too. He was walking toward her, a woven basket of freshly cleaned fish slung over his shoulder. His faded blue shirt was damp from the morning air, clinging slightly to his frame. His dark skin seemed to glow warmly under the rising sun. His eyes, when they met hers, held the same quiet strength she had, slowly, cautiously, grown to trust. "Good morning, Maya," he said, his voice as calm as the morning itself. A gentle smile touched his lips. "I'm heading toward the pier. Do you want to come? The breeze is nice this morning." Maya hesitated for a moment. She had avoided the water since arriving in Badagry. The vast, open expanse of it stirring up memories she wasn't ready to face. But Kunal's presence was a steady anchor. His calm gave her a sliver of courage she hadn't felt before. "I'll come," she said quietly, her voice barely a whisper, but he heard it. The sand was still damp and cool under their feet as they walked side by side toward the pier. The town was slowly waking up around them. Children, their laughter like bells, ran past chasing a tattered football, their bare feet kicking up little sprays of sand. Women with impeccable posture balanced large baskets of yams and tomatoes on their heads, calling out greetings to one another in cheerful musical voices. Life here moved at a different rhythm. "Life moves slowly here," Kunal observed, glancing at her. His gaze was kind, understanding. "But that's how it should be. You see everything clearly, not just rush past it." Maya nodded, taking it all in. She noticed how he seemed to know every single person they passed, greeting each one by name with a nod or a warm word. A woman selling fried plantain, an old man mending a net, a group of young boys heading for the boats. "Kunal, how do you know all these people?" she asked, a genuine curiosity in her voice. He chuckled, a low, pleasant sound. "I grew up here. This town is my home. Everyone knows me, and I try to help where I can. It's simple, really. Life is easier when people look out for each other." His words were simple, yet they resonated deeply within her. It was a philosophy so different from the one she had known, a life of guarded walls and looking over her shoulder. When they reached the pier, the small, brightly painted fishing boats rocked gently against the tides, their reflections dancing on the water's surface. The air was thick with the smell of brine and wood. Kunal knelt down to check his nets, his hands moving with a skill and care that was mesmerizing to watch. He pulled up a few glistening tilapia, their scales shimmering in the morning light. His movements were precise, steady, unhurried, as if the sea itself had taught him the art of patience. Maya watched him in silence, fascinated. She found herself drawn to his quiet competence, his deep connection to this place and its rhythms. "My wife used to love mornings like this," he said softly, his voice barely disturbing the peace. He didn't look at her, his gaze fixed on the horizon where the sun was now a brilliant orange orb. She said the sea was lonely at night, and that the sunrise made it feel alive again. Maya looked at him, a sudden realization dawning on her. She knew so little about his life, about the man who had shown her so much kindness. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. "I didn't know." Kunal offered a faint, sad smile. "It's fine. She passed last year. Life moves on, whether we're ready or not." Her chest tightened, a pang of sadness for him and a familiar echo of her own losses. For a moment, they stood in shared unspoken grief, two souls touched by sorrow, watching the sea that held its own timeless secrets. By late afternoon, the sky had changed. Dark, heavy clouds gathered over the ocean, rolling in from the horizon like a gray curtain. The cheerful blue of the morning was gone, replaced by an ominous, brooding mood. Kunal, ever observant, pointed toward the churning water. "A storm day come," he said, his voice calm matter of fact. His switch to pigeon felt natural, grounding. "We better head back before it reaches the town." The first gust of wind whipped her scarf around her face. Maya felt a familiar fear rise in her chest, cold and sharp. Storms had always terrified her. They were a violent, unpredictable force, reminding her of nights in her old home, hiding from shouting and anger she couldn't stop. Her hands began to tremble, a reaction she couldn't control. Kunal noticed her trembling, the sudden tension in her body. He moved a little closer, his presence a shield against the rising wind. "It's okay," he said gently, his voice low and steady. "You don't have to face it alone." Maya looked at him, really looked at him. There was no judgment in his eyes, no impatience, holiday, only a deep, unwavering reassurance that felt more solid than the ground beneath her feet. Too. In that moment, she made a choice. She chose to trust. "Can I come with you?" she asked, the words catching in her throat. "Of course," he replied without a moment's hesitation. "I get lanterns at home, and we sit while the rain falls." The rain began just as they started walking toward his house. It came down soft at first, a gentle patter on the palm leaves, then heavier, turning the dusty paths into dark, muddy streams, splashed into puddles, creating ripples that mirrored the turmoil she felt inside. Maya shivered, but Cunnell's steady presence beside her, the occasional brush of his arm against hers, made the cold bearable. He was a silent promise of safety. Slow, inside his small, tidy house, the world outside seemed to fall away. The furniture was simple, made of dark, worn wood, but everything was clean and in its place. He lit a kerosene lantern, and its warm, flickering glow cast dancing shadows on the walls, instantly making the space feel like a sanctuary. The sound of the rain drumming against the tin roof was no longer frightening. It was a rhythmic, soothing sound. Cunnell offered her a seat on a low wooden stool, while he poured warm water from a kettle into a simple clay cup for her. The distant rumble of thunder was muffled, less threatening. "You're safe here," he said quietly, handing her the cup. His fingers brushed hers for a second, and a gentle warmth spread through her. "The storm cannot reach inside." Maya sipped the warm water, its heat chasing away the last of the chill. Let herself relax, muscle by muscle, letting go of the tension that had been her constant companion for years. For the first time since leaving the chaos of Lagos, she didn't feel the crushing weight on her chest. She didn't feel alone. The storm raged outside, a wild symphony of wind and water, but inside, in the quiet space between them, there was only calm. "You always help people, Cunnell," she said softly, her voice filled with a quiet awe. "Even strangers." He shrugged, a simple, humble gesture. He looked at the lantern, at the way its light fought against the encroaching darkness. "We all need a little help sometimes. You see, life is heavy. Sharing it lightens the load." Maya nodded, letting his words sink in, letting them settle in her heart. Slowly, a profound realization began to bloom within her. Maybe she could start trusting again. Maybe she could start believing in safety, in kindness, in the quiet, unassuming strength of someone who asked for nothing in return, but still offered everything. The rain fell harder, washing the world clean. She sat there in the warm glow of the lantern. She listened to the comforting sound of Cunnell's quiet presence, the sound of his breathing, the sound of the rain. And for the first time in years, she felt a profound and deeply welcome sense of peace. The sun had just begun its descent over Badagry, painting the sky in vibrant shades of orange and deep purple. Imagine Maya and Cunnell walking slowly along the shore, the wet sand cool beneath their bare feet. The waves rolled in with a steady rhythm, and the air was thick with the smell of salt and rich earth. "I never thought I'd enjoy the simple things again," Maya said, her voice almost a whisper. She watched the water shimmer under the fading light. "Just walking, feeling the wind, it feels so peaceful." Cunnell glanced at her, his eyes soft and calm. "Nah, small moments stay important," he replied in his gentle way. "Life doesn't always give big surprises. Sometimes, the quiet teaches us more." Maya nodded, letting his words sink in. She realized how much she had been carrying the heavy weight of fear, loneliness, and her past. And yet, with Cunnell walking beside her, it all seemed lighter, as if she could finally, truly breathe. Day stopped near a small cluster of rocks, where the waves lapped gently against the shore. Cunnell reached into a small bag and handed Maya a piece of fried plantain he had kept from lunch. She smiled and accepted it, the simple gesture warming her heart. "Do you ever get tired of it?" Maya asked, breaking the comfortable silence. "The sea, the nets, the same work every single day." Cunnell shook his head, a thoughtful expression on his face. "No, there's a rhythm to it. Some days are calm, Some are rough, but if you're steady, you can face it all. Life is like that too, isn't it? Maya thought about her own life, how she had been running from one fear to another, never letting herself feel safe or settled. But Kunnal's steady presence was a quiet reminder that trust and patience could exist, that they didn't need to be rushed. They could grow slowly, like the tide. As the evening deepened and the sky darkened, they started walking back to Water Cottage. The first stars began to appear, their tiny lights reflecting softly on the water's surface. Maya felt a warmth spreading through her chest, the kind of warmth that comes from small comforts, a shared piece of food, quiet words that mean everything, and the profound knowledge that someone truly cared. When they reached the porch of her little cottage, Kunnal handed her a cup of warm tea he had prepared. "Tomorrow will be another busy day," he said softly, "but tonight, just enjoy this peace." Maya sipped the tea, its warmth seeping into her. A faint smile touched her lips. "I think I'm starting to feel like I belong somewhere." Kunnal nodded, his gaze kind. "You do belong, Maya, and little by little, you are finding your strength too." They sat there quietly for a while, listening to the timeless song of the ocean and the sounds of the town settling into night. In that moment, Maya realized that for the first time in months, she felt safe. She felt seen. She felt alive. And sometimes, that's all it takes. A quiet walk, a shared silence, and the simple beauty of a sunset to remind us that we are home. The morning sun broke over Badagry in streaks of gold and pink. Maya woke to the soft sound of waves rolling onto the shore. The air smelled faintly of salt and wet sand, mixed with the faint aroma of cooking fires from nearby homes. She stretched, feeling the lingering ache from helping Kunnal with the nets yesterday. Her body felt alive in a way it hadn't in months, a gentle reminder of effort and purpose. Outside, Kunnal was already tending to his fishing basket, his hands moving with practiced care as he checked the ropes and nets for any snags. His dark skin glistened slightly in the early light, and his eyes held the calm focus that had become so familiar to Maya. "Good morning, Maya," he said, his voice warm as he noticed her on the porch. "Today, we go deeper into the water to check the nets. The tide day strong, but the fish plenty. You ready?" Maya nodded, taking a deep breath of the salty air. "Yes. I want to help." They walked side by side to the pier, the damp sand cool and yielding under their feet. The town was already awake and bustling. Children ran past them, their laughter echoing in the morning air as they chased each other with bare feet. Women with baskets of tomatoes, peppers, and yams, balanced expertly on their heads, greeted friends along the way. Fishermen pushed their small, colorful boats into the tides, their voices carrying over the water as they shouted instructions to one another. Maya noticed how everyone responded warmly to Kunnal. People called out his name, their faces breaking into genuine smiles, too. It was a simple, easy rhythm of community, and she felt a quiet sense of belonging as she walked beside him. She was slowly becoming part of this place. At the pier, Kunnal handed her a coil of rope. "First, we untangle the nets," he said, his tone patient. "Take your time. I stay here if you need help." Maya knelt beside him, her fingers brushing over the rough, weathered texture of the rope. At first, she struggled with the stubborn knots, her movements clumsy and uncertain. But Kunnal was there, guiding her patiently. His hands would occasionally brush hers as he adjusted a loop or showed her how to tighten a strand. There was no judgment in his guidance, only encouragement. "You get it," he said softly, a small smile playing on his lips. "Soon, you go handle this yourself." A surge of pride swelled in Maya's chest. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, she realized she could do something well, that she could contribute. It was a small victory, but it felt monumental. After the nets were secured and ready, Kunnal suggested a short break. The sun was high now, sparkling on the waves and making the water glint like scattered jewels. He unpacked a small basket filled with fried plantains, boiled eggs, and fresh fish wrapped neatly in banana leaves. They sat on the edge of the pier, their legs dangling over the water, and ate in a comfortable quiet. The rhythm of the sea filled the space between their words, a soothing, constant presence. Cunnel began to speak softly, sharing stories about the town, zoo. He talked about the old fisherman who had taught him patience and care, and about the legendary storms and powerful tides that shaped their lives. Maya listened, captivated. It wasn't just his stories that held her attention, but the way he carried himself calm, steady, and unshakable, like the ancient rocks along the shore. After a pause, Cunnel looked at her, his expression thoughtful. "You notice small things," he said. "Details way others miss. That's a gift, Maya. Even the sea hides secrets from you." Maya looked at him, surprised. The sea monkey nodded toward the horizon. Dark clouds had begun to gather, almost unnoticed. "Yes, storms day come, sometimes fast, but you fit face them if you day steady." His words seemed to carry a deeper meaning, a quiet reassurance that resonated deep within her. By mid-afternoon, the sky had darkened completely. The first heavy drops of rain began to fall, pattering against the wooden pier. As the wind picked up, Maya felt that familiar cold tightening in her chest, the ghost of a fear that had haunted her for years. But Cunnel noticed immediately. He saw the change in her expression, the tension in her shoulders. "You no need fear," he said gently, his voice a steady anchor in the rising storm. "I day here, storm go pass, and you day safe." Maya looked at him, at the unwavering calm in his eyes, and for the first time, she truly believed it. They walked back slowly toward her cottage, the rain soaking them completely. But it no longer felt threatening. Instead, it felt cleansing, as if the storm was washing away the heavy layers of fear she had carried for so long. Inside, Cunnel lit a lantern. The warm, flickering glow filled the small room, pushing back the shadows. Maya sipped a cup of hot tea he had prepared, letting its warmth seep into her chest, chasing away the last of the chill. Outside, the wind whistled and the waves crashed against the shore with a powerful roar. But inside, there was only peace, a sense of safety, a feeling of belonging. As the storm finally subsided, leaving the air clean and fresh, Maya and Cunnel sat quietly on the porch. The world was hushed, the only sound the softened rhythm of the waves. Cunnel's voice broke the peaceful silence. "You day strong, Maya," he said, his gaze fixed on the tranquil sea. "Even small, you day find your way. That strength day quiet, but powerful." A lump formed in Maya's throat. She had spent years running from fear, from loneliness, from a pain she thought would never leave her. But here, in this small town, with this kind man, she could finally let herself rest. She could let herself heal. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "For everything. For showing me that life can be simple, safe, steady." Cunnel nodded, his eyes thoughtful as he looked at the horizon. "Every day now a chance to learn to grow. And you day take those steps. That matter past everything else." As night fell, the moon rose, casting a silver light over but it shimmered on the wet sand and the calmed sea, turning the world into a landscape of soft light and shadow. Maya realized that each day with Cunnel, each small lesson by the shore, was helping her rebuild herself. It was happening piece by piece, step by step, tide by tide. For the first time in months, she felt truly alive, truly seen, and truly part of a world that was welcoming her back. The morning in Badagry was quiet, but heavy, with clouds hanging low over the lagoon. I stepped out of my small cottage, pulling my scarf tightly around my head. The air smelled of wet earth and salt, and the distant rumble of thunder reminded me of the storm that had passed the night before. Kuhnel was already at the pier, checking the ropes on his small boat. His steady movements and calm expression gave me a strange sense of comfort. "Good morning, Maya," he called softly. "The tide day's strong today, but fish plenty. We go need focus and patience." I nodded. "I'm ready. I want to help." Working together at the pier, Kuhnel showed me how to untangle the nets. His hands occasionally brushed mine as he adjusted a knot, sending a small jolt through me. The ropes were slick from the rain, heavy and stubborn, but I followed his guidance carefully, my fingers mimicking his practiced motions. "You day learn fast," Kuhnel said quietly, his voice a low rumble. But today, pay attention. Stormfit, teach respect. I felt a mix of pride and nervousness bubble up inside me. I realized that my days with Connell were teaching me more than just how to fish. They were teaching me about patience, about courage, and about trust. Every small motion we shared, every shared glance across the tangled nets, seemed to strengthen the quiet, unspoken bond between us. After we finished with the nets, we sat on the edge of the pier, our legs dangling just above the water. The rhythmic sound of the waves lapping against the wooden posts filled the space between our words. A language all its own. Kunal unpacked a small snack he had brought. Fried plantain and boiled eggs, all wrapped neatly in banana leaves. You day notice small things, he said, offering me a piece of the sweet warm plantain. Details others miss. That Na gift, Maya. A small smile touched my lips as I accepted it. I notice because you show me, I replied, my voice softer than I intended. You make me see the world differently. Calmer, steadier. Connell's eyes softened, crinkling at the corners. We day all learn. Small, he said, looking out at the vast grey water. Storms no day last forever. People way day steady. We day survive and grow. Warmth spread through my chest, a feeling I hadn't experienced in a very long time. For the first time in months, I felt like I belonged somewhere. It was a strange and wonderful sensation, the feeling of having a place and a companion I could truly trust. Just as we finished our snack, the rain began to fall again. Not in a downpour, but as a light, misty drizzle that coated everything in a gentle sheen. Connell suggested we walk along the shore. I hesitated for a moment, a flicker of my old uncertainty. Then I nodded, trusting his guidance as I always did. Yes. We walked, the cool water splashed at our bare feet, washing the sand away from beneath our toes. The world seemed hushed, wrapped in the soft sound of the falling rain. I spoke softly, my words almost lost in the air. Connell, I've never felt safe like this before. Even in the rain, even when everything feels so uncertain. I feel calm with you. Connell glanced at me, and a small reassuring smile touched his lips. It was a simple gesture, but it meant the world. That now because you day learn to trust, he said. Not just me, but yourself too. Nah, step by step. One day, you go see say no storm fit shake you. My heart warmed at his words. I realized that our bond wasn't just about the shared work or the proximity of living in this small community. It was about something much deeper. Trust, patience, and a quiet, profound understanding that needed no words. I could rely on him, and more importantly, I was learning to rely on myself. The evening, we returned to my cottage. Damp from the rain, but feeling exhilarated and alive. Connell lit a lantern, and its golden glow cast dancing shadows across the small room, making it feel warm and safe. We shared hot tea in comfortable silence, letting the warmth seep into our tired hands and our weary hearts. The quiet moments with him were just as meaningful as the conversations. Jude strong, Maya Connell said softly, breaking the silence. His voice was gentle, but his words were powerful. Even when fear day you day stepped forward. That near courage. I looked at him, at the sincerity in his eyes, and a faint smile touched my lips. I feel alive, I admitted. Feel like I can belong somewhere, like I'm learning to trust again. Connell nodded, his expression full of understanding. That na beginning, he said. Little by little, we day face storms together, we day grow strong. Outside, the rain had stopped, and the moon rose over Badagry, its silver light reflecting on the now calm surface of the lagoon. Looking out at that peaceful scene, I realized that I hadn't just survived the storm, both the one in the sky and the one in my heart. I had found strength, I had found trust, and I had found a bond I could lean on, a connection built quietly through shared days, hard work, and endless patience. It was a new beginning, written in the rain and the salt and the steady rhythm of the tides. Speed. The sun was sinking low over Badagry, casting warm orange light across the lagoon. Maya stepped out of her cottage, her dark brown skin glowing softly in the evening light. The humid breeze lifted a few strands of her braided hair as she looked out over the quiet landscape. Her new life here was so different from the city she'd left behind. But slowly, It was beginning to feel like home. Just then, she spotted Cunnel walking toward her compound, his deep ebony skin catching the last glints of sunlight. In his hand, he carried a basket of freshly caught fish. "Maya," he called out, his deep voice carrying easily over the quiet road. He waved, and the simple gesture brought a smile to her face. "Cunnel, good evening," she called back. "You, Dan, go market today." Cunnel nodded as he approached, his steps unhurried and steady. "Go sell small fish," he explained, holding up the basket. "I say make, I bring you some too. You fit, use AM cook." Maya felt a familiar warmth settle in her chest. Cunnel's kindness was always like this, steady, never forced. He had been a constant source of support since she arrived in Badagra, helping her find her footing in a place that once felt overwhelmingly new. "Thank you," she said, her voice soft with gratitude. "You always look out for me." Cunnel just offered a small, knowing smile. Didn't need elaborate thanks. His actions spoke for themselves. He followed her to the small wooden bench outside her cottage, and together they began to clean the fish. The sky shifted from orange to a deep, calming purple, and one by one, lanterns started to glow in the nearby homes. The salty, earthy smell of the lagoon drifted on the cool evening wind, a scent that was becoming a comfort to Maya. As they worked, their movements falling into an easy rhythm, Cunnel broke the comfortable silence. "A day settle well for Badagry now," he observed, his hands moving expertly with the knife. It wasn't a question, but a statement of fact. Teed watched her transformation from a hesitant newcomer to someone who seemed to belong. "I am," Maya replied, her gaze fixed on the task at hand. "First, I felt so lost, like I was floating with no anchor. But now, with people like you around, I'm beginning to feel safe." She paused, surprised by her own vulnerability. It was the truth, though. The chaos of her past felt distant here, held at bay by the tranquility of the lagoon and the quiet strength of the man beside her. Cunnel glanced at her briefly, a soft, understanding smile crossing his face. "You deserve safety," he said simply. "Life, Dan, give you enough Wahola already. Here's." Words struck a chord deep within her. He didn't pry or ask for details about her past, but he acknowledged her struggle with a profound empathy that made her feel seen. Maya lowered her eyes, a small smile playing on her lips. With Cunnel, she never had to pretend to be stronger than she felt. When they finished cleaning the last of the fish, Maya gathered the scraps into a bowl to discard them later. The fresh fillets were ready for the pot, promising a delicious, simple meal. As she bent to pick up the knife from the ground, her eyes caught something small and dark lying near her doorstep, almost hidden in the shadows. Curious, she picked it up. It was a small, carved wooden pendant, weathered and smooth to the touch. It was shaped like a fisherman paddling a tiny canoe. The craftsmanship was intricate, clearly made by a skilled hand. "Cunnel, see this?" she said, holding it up so he could see it in the fading light. He leaned in close, taking the pendant from her to examine it more carefully, turned it over in his large, capable hands. "This one, old O," he murmured, his brow furrowed in thought. "Be like local carving way fisherman day keep for good luck." Maya looked at the small artifact, her imagination sparked. "Do you think someone dropped it?" she asked, wondering about the story behind the lost charm. Cunnel shrugged, handing it back to her. Maybe Badagry Day show you small parts of its history." He always had a way of seeing things, connecting the present to the past in a way that felt almost poetic. Maya laughed lightly, the sound clear and bright in the quiet evening. "You and your wise talk." Cunnel grinned, his teeth flashing in the dim light. "No be wisdom," he corrected her gently. "No life adds." The first stars began to appear in the vast dark sky, dotting the canvas above them. Cunnel stood up, stretching his tired muscles. It was time for him to go. "I go come check on you tomorrow," he said, his voice a low, comforting promise. Maya nodded, clutching the small wooden pendant in her hand. "I'll be here." She hesitated for a moment, then added, "And Cunnel, thank you for everything." The words felt inadequate to express the depth of her gratitude. For the fish, for the company, for making her feel like she belonged. Connell's eyes softened as he looked at her. "You're not alone, Maya," he said, his gaze holding hers. "Not here." With that, he turned and walked away slowly, his lantern casting a warm golden glow that stretched his shadow long across the dusty road. Maya watched him until he disappeared into the darkness, the light of his lantern a fading star. She stood there for a long moment, the cool night air on her skin. She looked down at the small wooden pendant in her palm, its smooth surface a comforting weight. In that quiet moment, standing on the threshold of her new home, Maya felt something she hadn't felt in a very long time. A profound sense of comfort, a deep and abiding peace, and the undeniable beginning of a bond she knew with all her heart she didn't ever want to lose. The next morning arrived with soft sunlight spreading across Badagry. Maya stepped outside her cottage, stretching and breathing in the cool, crisp air. Her dark brown skin glowed warmly under the rising sun, and she tucked a loose braid behind her ear. Moments later, Connell appeared, walking toward her with easy, confident strides. His deep ebony skin and strong frame stood out against the bright morning light. "Maya, good morning," he greeted, his voice a warm rumble. "Morning, Connell," Maya replied with a smile. "You're up early today." Connell chuckled, a sound that seemed to blend perfectly with the waking sounds of the town. "Nah, fisherman life. Sleep no day lasts long for person way day here water calling." Maya laughed, shaking her head gently. "You and this your water spirit talk." But her smile softened as she held out the carved wooden pendant she'd found the night before. "I keep thinking about this thing," she said, her voice dropping to a more serious tone. "It feels important somehow." Connell stepped closer, his gaze fixed on the object in her palm. He examined it again, his brow furrowed in thought. "This carving is old. Very old. Maybe it belonged to one of the fishermen from a long, long time ago. Some of them used to leave small things around the water for luck." For a good catch, Maya traced her thumb over the worn, smooth grooves of the wood. The intricate patterns felt familiar, like a forgotten memory. "Do you think it's connected to the notebook I found last week?" she asked, looking up at him. Connell nodded slowly, his eyes thoughtful. Maybe. It's possible. Badagry is full of stories, Maya. So many layers of history, one on top of the other. Sometimes the past finds a way to show itself, to remind us it's still here." Maya exhaled softly, the salty air filling her lungs. "I want to understand it. I feel this pull, not just the stories in the notebook, or the meaning of this pendant, but why I'm finding all of this now." Connell looked at her carefully, his expression unreadable for a moment, before it softened with understanding. "Maybe because you're ready now," he said, his voice gentle but firm. "Ready to start your life again." The simple, profound honesty in his voice made Maya's chest feel warm. It was a truth she hadn't dared to speak aloud herself, but hearing it from him felt like a permission slip to finally move forward. He didn't just see her. He saw the future she was afraid to hope for. Connell, sensing her quiet contemplation, gestured toward the shore. "Let's take a walk," he suggested. "Down to the lagoon. The water is calm this time of day." Maya agreed without hesitation. They strolled down the sandy path, winding their way between the tall, leaning coconut trees. The morning breeze rustled the palm fronds high above them, creating a gentle, rhythmic whisper that seemed to speak of peace. As they neared the water's edge, the scene unfolded like a painting. Children, their laughter bright and clear, ran along the shore, chasing tiny crabs and splashing in the shallows. Their joy was infectious, a pure and simple sound that echoed across the calm surface of the lagoon. Wooden boats, painted in vibrant colors, rocked gently with the tide, their nets draped over the sides to dry in the sun. The air was filled with a comforting mix of scents: the salt of the water, the rich earth, and the smell of smoked fish drifting from a nearby market stall, where a woman was fanning her coals. Maya watched as Kunal paused to greet a fellow fisherman, their conversation easy and familiar. They spoke in a mix of Yoruba and Pidgin, their hands gesturing as they talked about the tides and the night's catch. The sun glinted off Kunal's short, coiled black hair, and Maya found herself admiring the way he moved, so steady, patient, and grounded. He belonged here, as much a part of the landscape as the ancient trees and the timeless water. When he turned back to her, a warm smile on his face, he caught her thoughtful expression. "You're thinking something deep," he said, his tone more of a statement than a question. Maya looked away for a moment, a little shy under his observant gaze. She watched the light dance on the water before answering, "Jets, how peaceful it feels here. I didn't expect to find this kind of calm again, not after everything." Connell's voice softened, losing its usual playful edge and taking on a deeper sincerity. "Peace will come to the place where your spirit feels safe enough to trust. You've started to trust Badagry, and maybe," he added, his eyes holding hers, "maybe you've started to trust me, just a little bit." Maya felt a warmth rise in her cheeks, a blush she couldn't hide, but she didn't deny his words. Because it was true. In this town, by his side, she was finding pieces of herself she thought were lost forever. The trust was growing, quietly and surely, like a seed taking root in fertile soil. As they began their walk back toward her cottage, the sun now higher in the sky, Maya slipped the wooden pendant into her pocket. "I want to learn more," she said, her voice filled with a newfound resolve. Connell smiled, a broad, genuine smile that reached his eyes. "I'll help you," he promised. "Badagry has many stories, but we can uncover them together, one by one. We'll be detectives of the past." Maya nodded, a matching smile gracing her lips. She felt the familiar comfort of Connell's presence beside her, a steady anchor in the shifting tides of her life. Every day she spent with him brought her closer to healing. Closer to a feeling she wasn't ready to name just yet, but could feel growing quietly and powerfully between them. The lagoon breeze swept over them as they walked, carrying the scent of salt and possibility. It whispered of new beginnings, of stories waiting to be told, and of a future that was finally, beautifully, beginning to unfold. The evening sky over Badagry glowed with a warm golden hue as Maya finished sweeping the front of her cottage. The air felt still, peaceful, almost like it was waiting for something. She wiped her brow, her deep brown skin catching the soft light, and glanced toward Connell's compound. As if on cue, Connell stepped out, his rich ebony complexion glowing, a calm smile already on his face. "Maya," he said as he walked over, "I been day hope say you go be free this evening." Maya laughed. "I'm almost always free in the evenings, Connell." "What's going on?" Connell held up a small cloth-wrapped item. "I get something to show you." He handed her the wrapped item gently. Maya unfolded the cloth and gasped softly. It was a beautifully carved wooden pendant, similar to the one she found, but this one was polished and complete, too. The small fisherman carving looked alive in her palm, its details perfect and full of care. "Connell, where did you get this?" she asked, her voice filled with wonder. Connell rubbed the back of his neck, a shy gesture she'd grown to recognize. "I carve myself," he admitted softly. "I been one give you something meaningful. Something way, show say you day belong here." Maya stared at the carving, her heart warming in a way she hadn't felt in a very long time. "I don't know what to say." Connell stepped closer, his voice low but steady, wrapping around her like a warm blanket. "You know need talk plenty. I just want you to know, say you day safe here. With this community, and with me." Maya lifted her gaze to him. For a moment, the world felt quiet. The sounds of the evening faded, and all she could hear was the steady beat of her own heart. The sincerity in his eyes was undeniable. "Connell," she said softly, her voice barely a whisper, "since I came here, Tree, you've been the only person who made me feel calm. I didn't think I could trust anyone again." Connell's smile was gentle, understanding. "You fit, trust me. I know go hurt you." The simple words spoken with such conviction settled deep inside her, mending a crack she didn't even know was still there. She hadn't felt this kind of safety in years. They walked to the lakeside, where the waves lapped quietly against the sand. Lanterns from distant houses flickered like fallen stars on the dark water. Maya stood close beside him, the pendant warm in her hand, its smooth wood a comfort against her skin. The scent of the lagoon and the soft murmur of the water created a bubble of peace around them. Too. "You've helped me rebuild more than a fence," Maya said, her voice filled with a newfound clarity. "You helped me rebuild myself." Connell's eyes softened as he looked at her. "And you bring joy back to my life after my wife passed. Before you came, my heart day quiet. Too quiet, day." They stood there for a moment, two souls who had survived their own personal storms, now finding comfort and quiet strength in each other's presence. It wasn't a loud declaration, but a silent understanding that passed between them. The quiet of the lagoon seemed to hold its breath. Connell gently took her hand, his touch warm and firm. "Hugo, allow me," he said, his voice earnest and full of hope. "I go, like continue this journey with you. Slow, steady, just the way we dan day do am." Maya nodded, a wave of emotion rising behind her eyes. Not of sadness, but of pure, unadulterated relief and joy. "Yes, Connell, I want that too." A new chapter of both their lives began right there, by the tranquil waters of the lagoon, under the soft Nigerian evening sky. The past had wounded them, scarred them, but it no longer defined them. The future was theirs to shape together, hand in hand, safe, steady, healing. Thank you for watching. Please like, share and subscribe for more stories.